The worst mistakes happen in silence. That was the first thing my mother used to say whenever life cornered her into impossible situations. Standing barefoot in the middle of the Blackthorn Hotel's 32nd floor corridor at 2:13 in the morning, clutching a white towel against my chest while freezing air poured from hidden vents above me, I finally understood exactly what she meant. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions, lined with dark mahogany doors and gold wall sconces that cast soft amber light across the marble floor. Expensive, quiet, empty. At least, it was supposed to be empty. My pulse hammered so loudly I could hear it in my ears as I glanced back toward the employee locker room 20 feet behind me. The door had locked automatically the second I stepped outside. My uniform, my phone, my keycard, everything I owned tonight, was trapped inside. I squeezed my eyes shut for 1 second, trying not to panic. I had worked 16 hours straight covering for another hostess who quit mid-shift. My feet hurt. My back hurt. I smelled faintly like champagne and industrial detergent from folding linens half the night. All I wanted was to grab my things and go home to my tiny apartment in Queens where the radiator clanked loud enough to drown out my thoughts. Instead, I was stranded nearly 300 feet above Manhattan, wearing nothing but a towel and humiliation. Okay, Emily, I whispered to myself. Think. The service elevator sat at the far end of the corridor. If I could reach it, maybe I could get downstairs to security before anyone noticed me. I took one careful step onto the cold marble. Then another. The silence felt wrong. Heavy, like the building itself was holding its breath. My heartbeat sped up as I moved faster, keeping one hand locked around the towel while the other hugged my arms against the freezing air. Halfway down the corridor, I heard it. Ding. The elevator. I froze instantly. The polished steel doors slid open with slow mechanical precision, and 3 men in black suits stepped out first. Tall, broad shoulders, earpieces visible beneath dark haircuts so clean they looked military. Every survival instinct in my body screamed at once. Security. No. Worse. These men moved differently. Calm. Controlled. Dangerous in the way expensive knives look dangerous sitting perfectly still. Then he stepped out behind them. Adrian Blackwood. Even before I knew his name, I knew exactly who he was. Some people carry power the way other people carry umbrellas or briefcases. Casually. Effortlessly. Like the entire world had already agreed to move aside for them. He was tall enough that the elevator frame suddenly looked too small around him. Dark charcoal suit tailored perfectly across broad shoulders. Black tie loosened slightly at the collar. Dark hair brushed back like he'd run his hand through it moments earlier. But it was his eyes that stopped me from breathing. Cold blue. Sharp enough to cut straight through panic and embarrassment and every excuse I almost made. His gaze landed on me instantly. On my bare feet. My shaking hands. The towel clenched desperately against my chest. Heat flooded my face so violently I thought I might pass out. Oh God. I stepped backward automatically. I'm sorry, I blurted out. I didn't mean. I work here. I was just trying to, don't move. His voice wasn't loud. Somehow that made it worse. The 3 men beside him stopped immediately, watching me with unreadable expressions, but Adrian never looked away. Not once. I wrapped the towel tighter, wishing the marble floor would crack open and swallow me whole. Every horrible possibility rushed through my head at once. Fired. Arrested. Mocked. Filmed. The thought hit me hard enough to make my stomach twist. Filmed. That was when I noticed the tiny blinking red light hidden near the ceiling above the hallway mirror. A camera. My breath caught sharply. I stared at it. Adrian followed my gaze upward, and something changed in his expression instantly. The coldness sharpened. One of the suited men muttered quietly into his earpiece, but Adrian lifted one finger without looking away from me. Silence. Complete silence. Then, slowly, Adrian removed his suit jacket. I blinked in confusion as he crossed the distance between us with calm, measured steps that echoed softly across the marble floor. Every instinct told me to run, but something stranger held me still. He stopped inches away without touching me, without crowding me, without making me feel smaller than I already did. Then he draped the expensive black jacket carefully over my shoulders, covering me completely. Warmth surrounded me instantly, carrying the faint scent of cedarwood and expensive cologne. My fingers tightened around the fabric automatically. Adrian finally looked away from me and toward the blinking camera near the ceiling. His jaw flexed once. Whoever set that up, he said quietly, made a very expensive mistake. People think powerful men become dangerous when they raise their voices. They are wrong. The truly dangerous ones speak softly enough that everyone else goes silent for them. I stood frozen beneath the blinking hallway camera with Adrian Blackwood's jacket wrapped around my shoulders, trying to process what was happening while cold panic twisted inside my stomach. One of the men beside him touched his earpiece again. "Sir, security says the camera feed was rerouted 12 minutes ago." Adrian's expression did not change. "Who authorized it?" "We are checking now." The man's voice stayed calm, but I caught the tension underneath. Adrian finally looked back at me. Up close, his eyes were even colder than I realized. Not cruel exactly. Controlled. Like every thought passed through steel before reaching the surface. "What is your name?" he asked quietly. My throat tightened. "Emily." "Emily what?" "Carter." He nodded once like he already knew the answer. That somehow scared me more. I pulled the jacket tighter around myself, hyper-aware of the three men nearby pretending not to look directly at me. The expensive fabric hung heavy against my arms, still warm from his body heat. "I swear I did not do anything," I said quickly. "I work banquets downstairs. Someone took my uniform and my keycard from the locker room. I was just trying to get back to the service elevator." Adrian studied me for a long moment without interrupting. The hallway suddenly felt too quiet, too still. "You should not have been on this floor tonight," he said finally. "I know that." Embarrassment burned through me all over. Again, believe me, this was not exactly my plan either. One corner of his mouth moved slightly. Not a smile. Something smaller. More dangerous because of how brief it was. Behind him, another elevator ding echoed softly down the corridor. The three suited men shifted instantly, alert in a way that made my pulse spike again. Adrian turned his head slightly. "Nobody comes up here." The elevator doors closed again before opening fully. Whoever had called it downstairs clearly changed their mind. Or got stopped. I swallowed hard. "Who are you?" The question escaped before I could stop it. One of the men looked genuinely shocked that I asked. Adrian did not. "Someone cleaning up a problem." His gaze flicked once toward the blinking camera. "And unfortunately for you, Emily Carter, you are standing in the middle of it." My stomach dropped. I did not even know that camera existed. "That is why I believe you." He said it so simply that I blinked in surprise. Most men in positions of power made women prove innocence first. Adrian Blackwood looked at me like he had already decided the truth before I spoke. That should have comforted me. Instead, it unsettled me even more. Because men who read people that quickly were not normal. One of the suited men stepped closer. "Sir, we found the technician assigned to this floor. He disappeared 20 minutes ago." Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. "Of course he did." The man hesitated. "There is something else." Adrian looked at him once. The silence stretched. "Say it." The footage was being transferred externally. Every muscle in my body went cold. I stared toward the blinking camera again, suddenly unable to breathe properly. Someone had filmed me. Someone had planned this carefully enough to reroute security feeds in one of the most expensive hotels in Manhattan. Shame crashed through me so hard I thought my knees might give out. Adrian noticed instantly. "Look at me." I did not want to. I wanted to disappear. But something in his voice made me obey anyway. His expression stayed calm. Controlled. "You did nothing wrong," he said quietly. "Understand me clearly, Emily. The embarrassment belongs to the person who planned this, not to you." My throat tightened unexpectedly. Nobody had ever said something like that to me before. Most people treated humiliation like weakness, like something contagious. Adrian Blackwood spoke about it like an offense that deserved consequences. One of the men approached carefully holding a black tablet. "Sir." Adrian took it without looking away from me. Then his eyes dropped toward the screen. The coldness in his face sharpened instantly. "Interesting," he murmured. My stomach twisted. "What?" He tilted the tablet slightly toward me. Grainy footage from another hallway camera filled the screen. A hotel employee wearing gloves entering the women's locker room 15 minutes earlier. Carrying a keycard scanner. Carrying my uniform. I stared at the image in horror. I do not know him. Adrian's gaze remained fixed on the screen. "No," he said softly. "But I know exactly who sent him." Fear changes the way people hear silence. Before tonight, silence had always felt peaceful to me. Long subway rides home after midnight shifts. Empty apartment walls. Quiet mornings before the city woke up. But standing in that luxury hotel corridor beside Adrian Blackwood while his men scanned security footage and whispered into hidden microphones. Silence felt alive. Watching. Waiting. Adrian handed the tablet back to the suited man beside him without another word. "Lock down every exit," he said calmly. "Nobody leaves the building without my approval." The man nodded immediately and disappeared down the hallway with two others following close behind. Suddenly, it was just me and Adrian standing beneath the soft gold lights, while the tiny red camera still blinked overhead like an eye that refused to close. I wrapped his jacket tighter around myself. The expensive fabric smelled faintly like cedarwood, smoke, and something colder underneath. Control. That was the only word my exhausted brain could find for him. Adrian Blackwood looked like a man who had spent his entire life mastering control. "You should sit down," he said quietly. "I am fine." The lie came automatically. My knees still felt weak enough to collapse. Adrian glanced toward my bare feet against the marble floor. "You are shaking." I looked away immediately, embarrassed all over again. This is kind of a lot for one night. Another almost smile flickered briefly across his face before disappearing. That may be the first honest thing anyone has said to me today. I blinked at him in surprise. For a second, he looked less untouchable. Less like the terrifying man who could shut down an entire hotel floor with one sentence. Then the expression vanished as quickly as it came. A soft chime echoed down the hallway again. This time, Adrian's phone vibrated inside his pocket. He answered immediately. "Talk." Silence stretched while he listened. His eyes darkened slightly. "Are you certain?" Another pause. "Bring him upstairs." My stomach tightened instantly. Adrian ended the call and slid the phone back into his pocket with calm precision. "What happened?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked at me for a long second like he was deciding how much truth I could handle. "The employee who entered your locker room was found trying to leave the building through the loading dock." Cold spread through my chest. "Found by who?" "My people." The simple answer somehow sounded far more dangerous than if he had threatened someone outright. Adrian leaned one shoulder lightly against the wall beside me, perfectly composed while my thoughts spiraled in 10 different directions. "Why would somebody do this?" I whispered. "I am nobody." His gaze shifted back toward me immediately. Sharp. Certain. Nobody spends thousands of dollars rerouting private security systems for random entertainment. Emily. The way he said my name made something nervous twist low in my stomach. Not attraction. Not yet. Awareness. Like he saw me too clearly already. Then what do they want? Adrian was quiet for a moment. "That depends." "On what?" "Whether you were the target." My throat tightened. "And if I was not? Then you were supposed to become collateral damage." I stared at him blankly. He must have noticed the panic rising in my face because his tone softened slightly. "Listen carefully to me." His voice stayed low and controlled. "Whatever this is, it started before you stepped into that hallway. Tonight." My fingers tightened around the jacket sleeves. "You really think somebody planned all this?" "I know they did." Before I could answer, the elevator doors opened again. Two men in dark suits stepped out, escorting a nervous hotel employee between them. Mid-30s. Gray maintenance uniform. Sweat soaked through the collar despite the freezing air conditioning. The second he saw Adrian, his entire face drained white. Adrian straightened slowly away from the wall. The shift in the atmosphere happened instantly. No raised voice. No threats. But suddenly the hallway felt smaller. Heavier. The employee swallowed hard. "Sir, I can explain." Adrian walked forward with calm, measured steps that somehow looked more intimidating than anger. "Good," he said softly. "Because right now, you are the only person in Manhattan who can." The employee glanced at me briefly before looking away again. Guilt flashed across his face so fast I almost missed it. Adrian noticed. Of course he noticed. He noticed everything. "Look at her," Adrian said quietly. The man obeyed reluctantly. "Now explain why somebody paid you to humiliate an innocent woman tonight." The employee's lips trembled. I did not know it would be her. The words hit me like ice water. Adrian's expression went completely still. Dangerous still. Then who was it supposed to be? The man hesitated 1 second too long. Adrian took another slow step closer. "Choose your next words very carefully." The employee looked directly at me again, horror filling his face this time. "Room 917, he whispered. They thought the woman from 917 would come downstairs first. There are moments when a room changes before anyone moves. The second the maintenance worker whispered, "Room 917," The entire hallway seemed to tighten around us. Adrian Blackwood went completely still beside me, and somehow that frightened me more than if he had shouted. The employee looked like he regretted breathing. "Who was in room 917? I asked quietly. "Nobody," answered immediately. Adrian kept his eyes locked on the trembling man in front of him. "Start from the beginning," he said softly. "Every detail." The employee swallowed hard enough that I saw his throat move. "I only handled the cameras," he said quickly. "That was all. Somebody paid me to redirect the security feed for 20 minutes. They told me a woman staying on this floor would leave her room after midnight. They wanted footage." Shame curled coldly inside my stomach again, even though Adrian's jacket still covered me completely. "Why?" I whispered. The employee glanced at me apologetically before looking away. "Blackmail, probably. Rich people pay a lot to make problems disappear." Adrian's expression hardened slightly. "Names? I do not know them." Adrian tilted his head once. "That answer would matter more if you sounded believable." The man's breathing became uneven. "I swear." Adrian stepped closer slowly, calm enough that every word felt heavier. "You rerouted a private security system inside my hotel during a closed meeting on a restricted floor." My stomach dropped instantly. My hotel. Of course. Suddenly everything made sense. The silent men in tailored suits. The way staff disappeared the moment Adrian appeared. The fear in everyone's eyes when he spoke. Blackthorn Hotel did not just belong to him financially. It belonged to him completely. Adrian's gaze sharpened. "You knew exactly who would be upstairs tonight." The employee's silence answered for him. One of the suited men approached from the far hallway carrying another tablet. "Sir." Adrian took it without looking away from the maintenance worker. Then his eyes narrowed slightly at whatever appeared on the screen. "Interesting." He turned the tablet toward me briefly. Security footage showed a blonde woman stepping out of room 917 almost 20 minutes earlier. Elegant black dress, high heels, dark sunglasses despite the late hour. She moved quickly toward the elevators before disappearing off camera. "That is who they expected," Adrian said quietly. "Not you." Relief should have hit me first. Instead, confusion flooded through me. Then why steal my uniform? Because they needed the hallway empty when she walked out. Adrian handed the tablet back. "You entered the corridor at the wrong time. Wrong time. Wrong place." My mother used to call that bad luck. Tonight it felt bigger than luck. It felt planned by someone cruel enough to turn humiliation into a weapon. The maintenance worker wiped sweat from his forehead shakily. "I never meant for anybody innocent to get dragged into this." Adrian finally looked at him fully again. "That stopped being true the second you accepted money." Silence dropped hard between them. Then Adrian's phone buzzed once more. He answered immediately. "What?" A pause. His expression darkened by one dangerous degree. "Keep her downstairs. Nobody speaks to her until I get there." He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. "The woman from room 917 just tried to leave through the underground garage," he said calmly. One of the suited men cursed quietly under his breath. Adrian ignored him and looked toward me instead. "Emily." Hearing my name in his voice made my pulse jump unexpectedly. "What? Did you notice anything unusual before your uniform disappeared?" I frowned, forcing myself to think past the panic and exhaustion. "There was a woman downstairs earlier tonight." Adrian's attention sharpened instantly. "Describe her." "Blonde hair. Maybe early 30s. She kept asking where the private elevators were." I hesitated, and she looked nervous. Adrian exchanged a glance with one of his men. Something silent passed between them. Recognition maybe, or confirmation. "Did she speak to anyone?" "No." "But..." I stopped suddenly as another memory surfaced. "She dropped something near the ballroom." Adrian waited patiently. "What was it?" "A keycard." The hallway went silent again. My heartbeat sped up. I picked it up and gave it back to her. Adrian's eyes never left mine now. "Did you read the room number?" I swallowed hard. Suddenly, I already knew the answer before speaking it aloud. 917. Adrian exhaled slowly through his nose like a man watching pieces of a puzzle lock into place. Then his gaze shifted toward the maintenance worker again. "Congratulations," he said quietly. "Your situation just became much worse than stolen camera footage." Power does not always announce itself with threats. Sometimes it looks like a man standing perfectly calm while everyone else in the room starts panicking for him. The maintenance worker was escorted away 10 minutes later, pale and shaking so badly he nearly stumbled into the elevator doors. Nobody touched him roughly. Nobody raised their voice. But the fear on his face stayed burned into my mind long after he disappeared downstairs. Adrian watched the elevator close with the same unreadable expression he had worn all night. "You are not leaving this floor yet," he said quietly. My stomach tightened instantly. Am I in trouble? His eyes shifted toward me. If you were, this conversation would sound very different. I did not know whether that comforted me or terrified me more. One of his men approached carrying a folded hotel robe and a small paper shopping bag. Adrian took both items and handed them to me personally. "There is an empty suite down the hall," he said. "You can change there." I stared at the neatly folded robe for a second before accepting it carefully. "Thank you." Adrian gave a small nod toward the shopping bag. "One of the staff assistants found your phone and keycard inside the laundry room." Relief hit me so fast I nearly laughed. Seriously? Apparently whoever staged tonight's little performance did not have time to remove everything. I clutched the bag against my chest. I thought I lost all of it. Adrian's expression softened by half a degree. Barely noticeable, but enough that I saw it. "Not tonight." The words settled strangely inside me, warm and unsettling at the same time. Before I could answer, another suited man approached quickly from the far end of the hallway. "Sir, we checked room 917. Adrian looked at him once. And the room was cleared out before security arrived. Something dark flickered behind Adrian's eyes. Of course it was. The man hesitated briefly before lowering his voice. "But we found this." He handed Adrian a silver keycard sleeve from the hotel. Adrian glanced down at it once before handing it directly to me. My breath caught immediately. A small handwritten number was scribbled inside the sleeve in black ink. 32B. "That is the employee locker section," I whispered. Adrian's gaze sharpened instantly. "Your locker?" I nodded slowly. Cold prickled down my arms beneath the jacket. Somebody knew exactly where my things were. Adrian looked toward the security camera above us again, his jaw tightening slightly. "Yes," he said softly. "And they needed you out of the way before the woman from 917 came upstairs." I frowned. "But why?" Adrian was quiet for several seconds. "Because she was carrying something valuable." "What kind of valuable?" His eyes met mine again. The kind people betray each other over. The answer should not have made my pulse jump the way it did. But everything about Adrian Blackwood felt dangerous precisely because he spoke about terrible things so calmly. Like betrayal and fear and manipulation were just ordinary parts of his world. Maybe they were. The hallway suddenly buzzed with movement as more security personnel appeared near the elevators downstairs. Quiet voices. Fast footsteps. Expensive shoes against marble. Adrian barely reacted, but I noticed how every single person who passed immediately looked to him first before speaking. Not respect exactly. Something deeper. Loyalty mixed with caution. "Who are you really?" I asked quietly before I could stop myself. One of the nearby guards glanced at me nervously like I had crossed a line. Adrian did not seem offended. Tired maybe, but not offended. "You already know enough to answer that question yourself." He was right. Manhattan whispered his name the same way people whispered storms were coming. Adrian Blackwood. Hotel owner. Investor. Billionaire. The kind of man newspapers photographed beside politicians and celebrities. But standing beside him now, wrapped in his jacket while armed men guarded a private floor at 2:30 in the morning, I understood something the newspapers never captured correctly. Power was not the expensive suits or the money or the private elevators. It was the silence. The way entire rooms shifted when he entered them. The way dangerous people listened when he spoke softly. Adrian checked the time on his watch before looking back at me. "Go change, Emily." I hesitated. And then what? For the first time all night, something almost human crossed his face. Exhaustion maybe, or concern. "Then you. Tell me everything you remember about the woman from room 917. My pulse quickened again. "You really think I am connected to this somehow?" Adrian stepped slightly closer, close enough that his voice dropped lower. "No," he said quietly. "I think somebody wanted you standing in the wrong place at exactly the right time." Exhaustion makes expensive places feel unreal. 10 minutes later, I stood alone inside one of the luxury suites on the 32nd floor, wearing a soft black hotel robe that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan glowing silver beneath the rain, and somewhere far below, traffic crawled through the city like streams of red in white light. The suite smelled faintly like fresh linen and expensive whiskey. Quiet jazz drifted softly from hidden speakers in the ceiling. Everything about the room felt designed for people who never worried about rent or overdue utility bills. People nothing like me. I tightened the robe around my waist and stared at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My mascara had smudged beneath my eyes from stress and exhaustion. Damp brown hair hung loose around my shoulders. I looked overwhelmed. Because I was overwhelmed. 30 minutes ago, I had been trying to survive another overnight shift at Blackthorn Hotel. Now I was standing inside a billionaire's private floor, while armed men searched for someone connected to a blackmail setup involving hidden cameras and a mysterious woman from room 917. My phone buzzed suddenly from inside the paper bag Adrian had returned to me earlier. I nearly jumped. The screen lit up with 6 missed calls from my roommate Jenna and 3 text messages. "Are you okay? You vanished after midnight. Management is freaking out downstairs. Emily, call me now." I exhaled shakily and typed back a quick message saying I was safe before shoving the phone into the robe pocket. Safe. The word felt strange tonight. A soft knock sounded at the suite door before I could think any further. "Emily." Adrian's voice carried calmly through the wood. "Can I come in?" My pulse betrayed me instantly. "Yeah." The door opened slowly. Adrian stepped inside alone, this time without the security team shadowing him. Somehow that made the room feel even smaller, more personal. He had removed his tie completely now, and the top button of his black dress shirt sat undone beneath the sharp line of his jaw. Most men looked less intimidating dressed down. Adrian Blackwood somehow looked more dangerous. He glanced at me once, briefly checking whether I looked calmer than before. "Better?" he asked quietly. "A little." He nodded and crossed toward the windows while I stayed near the bathroom doorway, suddenly hyper-aware of how alone we were. Rain streaked across the glass behind him, blurring Manhattan into silver and gold. "Do you remember anything else about the woman from downstairs?" he asked. I forced myself to focus. "She seemed nervous," I said slowly, like she was in a hurry. She kept checking over her shoulder while talking to the concierge. Adrian slipped one hand into his pocket thoughtfully. "Did you hear a name?" I shook my head. "No, but I remember her asking where the private elevators led." Adrian's expression darkened slightly. "And the concierge answered?" "No." He looked uncomfortable. Something unreadable crossed Adrian's face before disappearing again. Good. Silence settled briefly between us. Not awkward exactly. Heavy, like both of us were thinking too much at once. Then Adrian turned away from the windows and looked directly at me. "There is something I need you to understand." My stomach tightened immediately. "Okay." He walked closer slowly, stopping a few feet away, close enough that I caught the faint scent of rain and cedarwood again. The woman from room 917 was carrying information connected to people who do not forgive mistakes. His voice stayed calm, but every word landed heavily. Whoever organized tonight expected her to be exposed publicly before she could leave the hotel. I stared at him blankly. So the cameras were not just about embarrassing someone. No, Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. Humiliation was only the distraction. Cold spread through my chest all over again. Then what was the real goal? Adrian looked at me for one long second before answering quietly. To stop her from delivering what she stole. I swallowed hard. Stole from who? Adrian did not answer immediately. Outside the windows, thunder rolled softly over Manhattan. Finally, his eyes met mine again. From me. The room seemed to tilt slightly beneath my feet. Suddenly, every strange detail from tonight rearranged itself into something far more dangerous than I originally imagined. The armed security, the lockdown floor, the panic in everyone's faces. I stared at him carefully now, noticing the tension hidden beneath his calm expression for the first time all night. Adrian Blackwood was not simply cleaning up an inconvenience. Somebody had betrayed him. And betrayal, I realized suddenly, was probably the one thing men like him never forgot. My throat tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" His gaze stayed fixed on mine. "Because whether you wanted it or not, Emily Carter," he said softly, "you are already involved. The truth changes shape when fear gets involved." 5 minutes earlier, I had been standing in a luxury suite trying to convince myself tonight was just a terrible misunderstanding. Now I stood frozen beside the windows while Adrian Blackwood calmly admitted someone had stolen from him. And somehow, I already knew the situation was worse than he was saying out loud. Rain hammered softly against the glass behind him. The city lights blurred silver across his face, sharpening the coldness in his blue eyes. I do not understand why any of this has to do with me, I whispered. Adrian watched me carefully. Because whoever planned tonight now knows you saw part of it. My stomach twisted hard. But I do not know anything. That has never stopped dangerous people before. Silence filled the suite again. Heavy. Suffocating. I crossed my arms tighter against the robe, even though the room was warm. So what happens now? Adrian looked toward the rain-streaked skyline for a moment before answering. Now I figure out whether tonight was only about stolen information. Something in his tone made my pulse spike. Or his gaze returned to mine slowly. Or whether somebody wanted access to you specifically. I stared at him in disbelief. Why would anybody target me? Adrian did not answer immediately. That silence frightened me more than any explanation could have. A sharp knock interrupted the room before either of us spoke again. Adrian opened the suite door halfway while I stayed back instinctively. One of his security men stood outside holding another tablet. Sir, we recovered deleted footage from the service hallway. Adrian took the tablet. His expression remained calm for exactly 2 seconds before hardening dangerously. When was this recorded? Approximately 40 minutes before Miss Carter entered the corridor. Adrian looked back toward me. Emily. Something cold settled in my chest instantly. He turned the screen toward me. Grainy black and white security footage filled the display. I recognized myself immediately standing near the employee elevators downstairs earlier that night, carrying a tray of champagne glasses. But I was not alone. The blonde woman from room 917 stood beside me, speaking quietly while pretending to check her phone. My breath caught. I do not remember this. Adrian zoomed closer on the footage. The woman slipped something small into the pocket of my uniform apron while my back was turned. My entire body went cold. Wait. I stepped closer automatically. What did she put there? Adrian's eyes darkened. That is exactly what I intend to find out. My pulse hammered painfully now. But my uniform disappeared. Adrian nodded once. Which means whoever stole it knew something valuable had been hidden inside. The room suddenly felt too small. Too warm. I pressed one hand against the edge of the marble counter to steady myself. I never even noticed her near me. Adrian studied me carefully. That was probably intentional. One of the guards shifted uneasily near the doorway. Sir, there is more. Adrian looked up sharply. Say it. The woman from room 917 never checked into the hotel under her real name. Adrian's jaw tightened. And we identified her 30 minutes ago. The guard hesitated briefly. She worked for your brother. The silence afterward felt almost physical. Adrian went completely still beside me. Not shocked exactly. Worse. Prepared. Like part of him had expected betrayal. Long before tonight. Your brother? I repeated carefully. Adrian handed the tablet back without taking his eyes off the guard. Leave us. Sir, now. The guard nodded immediately and disappeared, shutting the suite door behind him. The second we were alone again, the atmosphere changed. Adrian loosened his grip slightly against the marble counter beside him like he was forcing himself back under control. I realized suddenly that this was the first real crack I had seen in him all night. You knew this could happen, I said quietly. Adrian looked at me without expression. I knew somebody close to me was leaking information. But not your brother. His silence answered for him. I should have stayed quiet after that. I should have remembered who he was. Powerful men did not like strangers digging through their weaknesses. But exhaustion and fear had burned away my common sense hours ago. Then maybe you should stop treating people like suspects and start asking why somebody wanted to betray you in the first place. The words escaped before I could stop them. Adrian's eyes narrowed instantly. The air in the room tightened. Careful, Emily. I took a shaky breath anyway. No. You keep talking about control and security and betrayal like everybody in your life is terrified of disappointing you. My pulse pounded violently now, but I kept going. Maybe your brother did not betray you because he hates you. Maybe he betrayed you because he is scared of you. Silence crashed between us. Adrian stared at me with an expression I could not read anymore. Then slowly, very slowly, he stepped closer. Do you always confront dangerous men when you are frightened? He asked quietly. I swallowed hard but refused to look away. Only the ones who think fear makes them untouchable. Some men react to defiance with anger. Adrian Blackwood reacted with silence, and somehow that was far more unsettling. The space between us felt razor-thin now. Rain rattled softly against the windows while Manhattan glowed beneath the storm outside. But inside the suite, everything narrowed down to the way Adrian was looking at me. Calm, focused, dangerous. I realized suddenly how close he stood. Close enough that I could see the faint shadow of exhaustion beneath his eyes for the first time all night. "You think you understand me after 2 hours?" he asked quietly. My pulse refused to slow down. "No," I admitted. "But I think everybody around you is scared to tell you the truth." Adrian stared at me for a long moment that felt endless. Then, unexpectedly, he looked away first. A slow breath left him as he moved back toward the windows overlooking the city. "You are either very brave," he said softly, "or very reckless. Maybe both." One corner of his mouth moved slightly again. Not amusement exactly. Something more surprised than entertained. Before either of us could say anything else, my phone buzzed sharply inside the robe pocket. The sudden sound made me jump. I pulled it out quickly, expecting another message from Jenna downstairs. Instead, an unknown number flashed across the screen. My stomach tightened immediately. Adrian noticed my expression. "Answer it." I hesitated. "What if—" "Put it on speaker." My fingers shook slightly as I answered the call. "Hello." Silence answered first. Then a woman's voice came through, softly distorted, almost whispering. "You should not trust him." Every muscle in my body went cold. Adrian's expression sharpened instantly beside me. "Who is this?" I demanded. A quiet laugh crackled through the speaker. "The wrong girl walked into that hallway tonight." My breath caught painfully. Adrian stepped closer, his attention fully locked on the phone now. "Where are you?" he asked calmly. The woman ignored him completely. "Check the inside pocket of your uniform apron, Emily." My heartbeat slammed against my ribs. "What did you put there?" "Something your mafia prince desperately wants back." The line crackled softly with static. Adrian's voice lowered dangerously. "You are making a mistake." Another small laugh answered him. "No, Adrian. The mistake was trusting your brother." Then the call disconnected. Silence crashed into the suite instantly afterward. I stared at the dark phone screen while panic spread cold through my chest. Adrian reached for the device calmly. "Let me see." He checked the number once before. Handing the phone back. Blocked through multiple reroutes. His jaw tightened slightly. "Professional." I looked up at him slowly. "She called you a mafia prince." Adrian's gaze remained unreadable. People say many things when they are frightened. And are they wrong? He did not answer. Which was answer enough. My thoughts spiraled hard now. The hidden cameras. The stolen uniform. The woman from room 917 secretly slipping something into my apron pocket downstairs. Somehow all of it connected to Adrian's brother and whatever dangerous information had been stolen tonight. I looked toward the suite door instinctively. "My uniform is still downstairs in the laundry room, right?" Adrian nodded once. "Probably." Then whatever she hid could still be there. Adrian was already reaching for his phone before I finished speaking. "Get me the service laundry level immediately," he ordered quietly into the line. A pause. Then his expression hardened. "What do you mean it is gone?" Ice spread through my veins. Adrian listened silently for another few seconds before ending the call. "The laundry cart holding your uniform disappeared 6 minutes ago." My stomach dropped. "Somebody took it?" "Yes." He slipped the phone back into his pocket with controlled precision, but tension radiated off him now stronger than before. And based on timing, they knew exactly what they were looking for. Fear pressed sharply against my ribs. "This is insane." Adrian looked at me steadily. "No, this is organized." I turned away, running one trembling hand through my hair. I should never have stepped onto that floor tonight. "No," Adrian said quietly behind me. "You should not have been dragged into somebody else's war." The softness in his voice caught me off guard enough that I looked back at him immediately. For one strange second, neither of us spoke. The tension between us shifted into something more complicated than fear. Adrian moved first, stepping toward the suite door. "Come with me." My pulse jumped again. "Where?" His blue eyes locked onto mine with calm certainty. "If somebody stole your uniform tonight, Emily," he said quietly, "then they are already searching the hotel for whatever was hidden inside it." People imagine fear as something loud. Screaming tires, raised voices, gunshots in dark alleys. But real fear is quieter than that. Real fear is stepping into an elevator beside a man powerful enough to terrify everyone around him and realizing he might still be the safest person in the room. The private elevator descended silently beneath Blackthorn Hotel, while Adrian stood beside me with one hand in his coat pocket, calm as ever. I clutched the robe tighter around myself, trying to ignore the way my pulse kept jumping every time his shoulder brushed lightly against mine during the ride. The mirrored walls reflected both of us back in cold silver light. Me looking exhausted and overwhelmed. Him looking like he belonged inside storms. How many people know about the missing uniform? I asked quietly. Adrian glanced toward the glowing floor numbers above us. Too many already. And your brother? His expression hardened slightly. I do not know yet. The elevator doors opened onto the underground service level. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, while industrial washers hummed somewhere deeper in the hallway. Completely different from the luxury upstairs. The glamour vanished down here. Concrete floors. Cleaning carts. Metal shelves stacked with towels and uniforms. Real work. Real people. Adrian's security team waited near the laundry entrance the second we stepped out. One of the guards approached immediately. Sir, we searched the loading area. No sign of the cart. Adrian nodded once. Cameras. Disabled for 4 minutes. Adrian exhaled slowly through his nose. Not angry. Worse. Focused. I followed them inside the laundry room while my heartbeat pounded harder with every step. The room smelled like detergent and steam. Industrial dryers rattled against the walls. Half-folded linens covered steel tables beneath harsh white lights. My locker uniform was gone. So was the entire cart holding employee laundry from the banquet floor. Adrian scanned the room once before his eyes landed on something near the back counter. Stop. Everyone froze instantly. He crossed the room slowly and picked up a small silver object resting beside one of the detergent bins. Then he turned toward me. A hotel room keycard. Room 917. My stomach twisted sharply. She left that on purpose. I whispered. Adrian examined the card carefully. No, his voice stayed quiet. She left it for you. Before I could respond, another security guard rushed into the room carrying a black envelope. This was found taped beneath the missing card. Adrian took it immediately. My pulse hammered painfully as he opened the envelope with calm, precise movements. Inside was a single flash drive and a folded handwritten note. Adrian unfolded the paper first. The second his eyes moved across the message, something changed in his face. Not anger. Not shock. Hurt. Real hurt buried beneath years of control. I had not thought men like Adrian Blackwood could look wounded. Somehow that frightened me more than everything else tonight. What does it say? I asked softly. Adrian stayed silent for several seconds before finally handing me the note. My fingers trembled slightly as I read the elegant handwriting across the page. If you are reading this, then your brother already chose which side he belongs to. Trust nobody wearing your name. Cold spread through my chest instantly. I looked up at Adrian slowly. She was trying to warn you. Adrian's jaw tightened. Or manipulate me. Do you really believe that? Silence answered me first. Then Adrian took the flash drive from the envelope and turned it slowly between his fingers. People rarely risk their lives for strangers without wanting something in return. Maybe she was not protecting a stranger. His eyes shifted toward me carefully. What do you mean? I swallowed hard. Maybe she was protecting someone she once cared about. The room fell quiet around us again. One of the guards shifted awkwardly near the doorway before Adrian dismissed everyone with a small gesture. Within seconds, we were alone beside the humming industrial dryers while rain thundered faintly above the city somewhere far overhead. Adrian looked down at the flash drive in his hand. You should go home after this, he said quietly. The words surprised me more than they should have. That sounds almost considerate. Hey. Faint shadow of amusement touched his expression briefly. Do not sound so shocked. I am trying not to be. He stepped closer slowly until only a few feet separated us again. Emily. My pulse betrayed me instantly hearing my name in his voice. What? Adrian studied me with that same unreadable intensity from the hallway upstairs. But now there was something else beneath it. Something quieter. More human. Tonight somebody tried to use your humiliation as leverage. His voice dropped lower. That will not happen again. The certainty in his tone wrapped around me stronger than fear ever had. Outside the laundry room, thunder rolled across Manhattan while the city carried on unaware that my entire life